Welcome to Delete These Thoughts If You Want to Win. I'm your narrator, and over the next hour, we're going to embark on a transformative journey that could fundamentally change how you think, act, and ultimately, how you win in life. Every day, millions of thoughts flow through your mind. Some of these thoughts propel you forward, inspire you, and help you achieve your goals. But there's another category of thoughts, the ones we're going to focus on today, that act like invisible chains, holding you back from the success you deserve. These thoughts are so common, so deeply ingrained in our daily mental patterns, that most people don't even recognize them as problems. They've become background noise in the symphony of our consciousness. But here's the truth, these thoughts are not just harmless mental chatter. They are success killers, dream destroyers, and potential limiters. Today, we're going to identify these toxic thought patterns, understand why they exist, and most importantly, learn how to delete them permanently from your mental operating system. Because here's what I know for certain, the difference between those who win consistently and those who struggle isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's the quality of their thoughts. Your mind is like a computer. The thoughts you allow to run are like software programs. Some programs help your computer run efficiently and accomplish great things. Other programs are like viruses, they slow everything down, create problems, and prevent you from reaching your full potential. It's time for a mental antivirus scan. It's time to delete the thoughts that are sabotaging your success. Chapter 1, The Invisible Enemy. Before we dive into the specific thoughts you need to delete, let's understand why this matters so much. Your thoughts create your reality. This isn't just positive thinking nonsense, it's scientific fact. Neuroscience has shown us that our thoughts literally rewire our brains through a process called neuroplasticity. When you think a thought repeatedly, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that thought. Think of it like walking through a forest. The first time you walk a path, you have to push through branches and undergrowth. But if you walk that same path every day, eventually you create a clear, well-worn trail. Your thoughts work the same way. The thoughts you think most often become the superhighways in your brain. They become automatic, unconscious, and incredibly powerful in shaping your behavior and outcomes. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and where most people get it wrong. They assume that if they just think positive thoughts, everything will change. But you can't just add positive thoughts on top of negative ones and expect transformation. You have to delete the negative thoughts first. Imagine trying to install new, faster software on a computer that's already infected with viruses and running outdated programs. The new software won't work properly because the old, problematic programs are still running in the background, consuming resources and creating conflicts. This is exactly what happens when people try to think positive without first addressing their negative thought patterns. The old, limiting thoughts continue to run in the background, sabotaging their efforts and preventing real change. The thoughts we're going to identify today are like mental viruses. They consume your mental energy, create internal conflicts, and prevent you from accessing your full potential. But unlike computer viruses, these mental viruses often disguise themselves as logical, reasonable, or even protective thoughts. Your brain, you see, has one primary job: to keep you alive. It's not concerned with keeping you happy, successful, or fulfilled. It just wants to keep you breathing. And from your brain's perspective, anything new, challenging, or uncertain is potentially dangerous. This is why your brain will generate thoughts designed to keep you in your comfort zone, even when your comfort zone is actually quite uncomfortable. It's why your brain will create elaborate stories about why you can't succeed, why you should give up, or why you're not good enough. These thoughts feel real. They feel important. They feel like truth. But they're not. They're just outdated software running on mental autopilot, and it's time to hit the delete button. Chapter 2, I'm not good enough. Let's start with perhaps the most common and destructive thought pattern of all, I'm not good enough. This thought has more variations than a jazz standard. I'm not smart enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not worthy enough. This thought is like a master key that unlocks every door to failure. It prevents you from trying new things, applying for better jobs, starting relationships, launching businesses, or pursuing dreams. It's the ultimate excuse generator and dream killer. But here's what's fascinating about this thought, it's almost never based on actual evidence. When you really examine it, you'll find that I'm not good enough is usually a story your mind has created based on limited data, past experiences that are no longer relevant, or comparisons to others that are fundamentally unfair. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. There was a woman named Sarah who worked as a marketing assistant at a small company. For 3 years, she watched as less qualified people got promoted around her. Every time a new position opened up, she would think, I'm not experienced enough for that role. She had convinced herself that she needed more credentials, more experience, more something before she could advance. One day, her company hired a new marketing director, someone with less experience than Sarah, but who had applied confidently for the position. Sarah realized that the only thing standing between her and advancement wasn't her qualifications, it was her thoughts about her qualifications. The I'm not good enough thought creates what psychologists call a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you believe you're not good enough, you don't put yourself in positions where you could succeed. You don't apply for the job, ask for the promotion, start the business, or take the risk. And because you don't try, you don't succeed, which then reinforces your belief that you weren't good enough in the first place. It's a vicious cycle that keeps millions of talented, capable people stuck in lives far below their potential. So how do you delete this thought? First, you need to recognize it when it appears. The I'm not good enough thought is sneaky. It often disguises itself as humility, realism, or careful planning. You might think, I'm just being realistic about my abilities, but what you're actually doing is limiting yourself based on imaginary inadequacies. Second, you need to challenge this thought with evidence. When I'm not good enough appears, ask yourself, not good enough compared to what? Based on what evidence? Says who? You'll often find that this thought crumbles under scrutiny. Third, replace it with a more accurate thought. Instead of I'm not good enough, try I'm learning and growing every day, or I have unique value to offer, or simply I'm enough, right now, as I am. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be valuable. You don't have to be the best to be good enough. The world doesn't need another perfect person, it needs you, with your unique combination of skills, experiences, and perspectives. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. Every winner was once someone who thought they might not be good enough but decided to try anyway. Delete the thought I'm not good enough. It's not serving you, it's not protecting you, and it's definitely not helping you win. Chapter 3, What if I fail? The second thought that must be deleted from your mental operating system is what if I fail? This thought masquerades as prudent planning, but it's actually fear wearing a suit and tie. What if I fail, is the thought that keeps dreams locked in mental storage units, never to see the light of day. It's the thought that turns potential entrepreneurs into permanent employees, potential authors into people who talk about writing someday, and potential leaders into followers who play it safe. This thought is particularly insidious because it seems so logical. After all, failure is a possibility in any endeavor. But here's what the "what if I fail" thought gets wrong: it assumes that failure is catastrophic, permanent, and something to be avoided at all costs. Let me tell you about failure. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's the pathway to success. Every person who has achieved anything significant has failed more times than most people have even tried. The difference is that winners have deleted the thought "what if I fail," and replaced it with "what will I learn?" Thomas Edison didn't think, "what if I fail," when he was working on the light bulb. If he had, he would have stopped after the first unsuccessful attempt. Instead, he reportedly said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The "what if I fail" thought creates what I call analysis paralysis. You spend so much time thinking about potential failure that you never actually do anything. You research endlessly, plan obsessively, and prepare continuously, but you never launch, never start, never take the first step. But here's the paradox: the longer you wait to avoid failure, the more you guarantee it. While you're sitting on the sidelines worrying about what might go wrong, someone else is out there doing, learning, adjusting, and ultimately succeeding. The "what if I fail" thought also fundamentally misunderstands the nature of modern failure. In today's world, most failures are reversible, temporary, and educational. The cost of not trying is almost always higher than the cost of trying and failing. Consider the entrepreneur who doesn't start a business because she's afraid it might fail. What's the real cost of that decision? It's not just the money she didn't make or the customers she didn't serve. It's the person she didn't become, the skills she didn't develop, the confidence she didn't build, and the impact she didn't make. Now, this doesn't mean you should be reckless or ignore real risks. The key is to replace "what if I fail" with better questions: what's the worst that could realistically happen, and how would I handle it? What's the cost of not trying? What will I learn from this experience, regardless of the outcome? These questions acknowledge risk while keeping you focused on opportunity and growth rather than fear and limitation. I want to share a powerful reframe that can help you delete this thought permanently. Instead of thinking "what if I fail," start thinking "what if I succeed?" Not in a naive, ignore all risks way, but in a way that balances your mental focus. Your brain has a tendency called the negativity bias. It's naturally wired to focus on potential threats and problems. This was useful when we were living in caves and had to watch out for saber-toothed tigers, but it's counterproductive in the modern world where most of our challenges are opportunities in disguise. When you consciously balance "what if I fail" with "what if I succeed," you're giving your brain permission to imagine positive possibilities. You're training yourself to see opportunities instead of just obstacles. But the ultimate reframe is this: replace "what if I fail" with "what if I don't try?" Because that's the real failure. The only real failure is the failure to try, to grow, to become who you're capable of becoming. Delete "what if I fail." It's keeping you small, scared, and stuck. Winners don't avoid failure, they use it as fuel for success. Chapter 4, I don't have time. Let's move on to perhaps the most popular excuse thought of our generation: I don't have time. This thought is so common, so universally accepted, that it rarely gets challenged. But it should be, because "I don't have time" is almost never about time, it's about priorities, and it's sabotaging your success in ways you might not realize. First, let's establish a fundamental truth: everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Oprah Winfrey has 24 hours. Elon Musk has 24 hours. The single mother working 2 jobs has 24 hours. The billionaire CEO has 24 hours. You have 24 hours. The difference isn't in the amount of time available, it's in how that time is prioritized and used. When you say I don't have time, what you're really saying is this isn't a priority for me right now. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine to choose not to prioritize certain activities. But it's not okay to lie to yourself about why you're making that choice. The I don't have time thought creates several problems. First, it makes you feel like a victim of circumstances rather than the author of your choices. Second, it prevents you from taking ownership of your priorities. Third, it stops you from finding creative solutions to genuine time challenges. Let me share an example. I once worked with a man named David who desperately wanted to start a side business. He had a great idea, knew there was market demand, and had even identified potential customers. But every time we talked, he would say, "I just don't have time to work on it." So we did an exercise. For 1 week, David tracked exactly how he spent his time. Not estimated, actually tracked it in 15-minute increments. The results were eye-opening. David discovered that he was spending 14 hours per week watching television, 8 hours per week scrolling social media, and 6 hours per week on what he called miscellaneous internet browsing. That's 28 hours per week, more than a full-time job's worth of time. David didn't have a time problem. He had a priority problem. Once he recognized this, he was able to reallocate just 10 hours of that 28-hour block to his business idea. Within 6 months, he had launched successfully and was generating significant additional income. The I don't have time thought also ignores one of the most important principles of time management: you don't find time, you make time. Time is not something you discover lying around unused. Time is something you create by making conscious choices about what to do and what not to do. Winners understand this. They don't wait for free time to appear, they create time for what matters to them. They wake up earlier, they say no to low-value activities, they delegate, they automate, they eliminate, and they prioritize ruthlessly. But here's the deeper issue with the I don't have time thought: it often masks fear. Sometimes when we say I don't have time, what we really mean is I'm scared to try, or I don't know where to start, or I'm worried I might fail. It's easier to blame time than to confront our fears or take responsibility for our choices. But this mental shortcut is costing you opportunities, growth, and ultimately, success. So how do you delete this thought? First, stop saying I don't have time for anything. Ever. Instead, be honest about your priorities. Say that's not a priority for me right now, or I choose to spend my time on other things. This simple language change will force you to take ownership of your choices and might even help you realize that some things you thought weren't priorities actually are. Second, do your own time audit. Track how you actually spend your time for a week. You'll probably be surprised by what you discover. Most people find at least 5 to 10 hours per week that they're spending unconsciously on low-value activities. Third, learn to see time as your most valuable resource. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. Every hour you spend is an hour you'll never get back. Make sure you're investing your hours, not just spending them. Fourth, embrace the concept of good enough. Perfectionism is a time killer. Most tasks can be completed to an acceptable standard in 20% of the time it would take to make them perfect. Identify what needs to be perfect and what just needs to be good enough. Finally, Remember that successful people aren't successful because they have more time, they're successful because they make time for what matters most to them. Delete "I don't have time." Replace it with "How can I make time for this?" or "Is this important enough to prioritize?" These questions put you back in control and open up possibilities instead of shutting them down. Chapter 5, It's Too Late. Now let's tackle one of the most heartbreaking thoughts that keeps people trapped in unfulfilling lives: it's too late. This thought has countless variations. I'm too old to start over. I should have done this years ago. I've missed my chance. The opportunity has passed. This thought is particularly cruel because it steals hope. It convinces you that your best days are behind you, that significant change is no longer possible, that you should just accept where you are and stop dreaming of where you could be. But here's the truth: it's almost never too late. As long as you're breathing, you have the opportunity to grow, change, and create something meaningful with your life. Let me share some perspective on this. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he franchised KFC. Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't publish her first Little House book until she was 65. Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 78. Frank McCourt published his first book at 66. Harlan David Sanders didn't become Colonel Sanders until he was in his 60s. These aren't exceptions, they're examples of what's possible when you delete the thought "it's too late" and replace it with "it's never too late to start." The "it's too late" thought is often rooted in comparison. You look at successful people and focus on how young they were when they achieved their success. You see the 25-year-old entrepreneur and think, "I should have started a business when I was younger." You see the 30-year-old author and think, "I should have written my book in my 20s. But this thinking ignores several important realities. First, for every young success story, there are thousands of people who started later and achieved great things. Second, success at a young age often comes with its own challenges and limitations. Third, starting later often means starting with more wisdom, experience, and resources. Consider this: if you're 40 and think it's too late to change careers, you're essentially saying that the next 25 to 30 years of your working life don't matter. If you're 50 and think it's too late to start a business, you're dismissing the decades of experience and wisdom you've accumulated. The "it's too late" thought also ignores the exponential nature of compound growth. Whether we're talking about skills, relationships, investments, or impact, small consistent actions over time can lead to extraordinary results. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. I want to address one specific version of this thought: "I should have started earlier." This is particularly toxic because it combines regret about the past with resignation about the future. It's a double dose of mental poison. Here's the reality: you couldn't have started earlier. You weren't ready earlier. You didn't have the knowledge, experience, circumstances, or mindset that you have now. Everything that happened in your life up to this point has prepared you for what comes next. Instead of regretting that you didn't start earlier, be grateful that you're ready to start now. Your timing might actually be perfect, even if it doesn't feel like it. The "it's too late" thought also assumes that there's only one path to success or fulfillment. It assumes that if you haven't achieved something by a certain age, the opportunity is gone forever. But life doesn't work that way. There are multiple paths to every destination, and new paths are being created all the time. Technology has created opportunities that didn't exist even 10 years ago. Social changes have opened doors that were previously closed. Global connectivity has made markets accessible that were once unreachable. The landscape of possibility is constantly expanding. So how do you delete this thought? First, Stop focusing on when other people achieved their success and start focusing on what you can achieve now. Your journey is unique, and comparing your chapter 5 to someone else's chapter 20 is pointless and harmful. Second, reframe your age and experience as assets, not liabilities. Every year you've lived has taught you something valuable. Every challenge you've faced has made you stronger and wiser. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from a foundation of experience that younger people don't have. Third, start thinking in terms of time remaining rather than time past. If you're 45, you potentially have 30 to 40 productive years ahead of you. That's longer than most people's entire careers. That's enough time to master new skills, build new relationships, create new ventures, and make a significant impact. Fourth, take one small step today. The antidote to it's too late is action. You don't have to make a dramatic life change overnight. You just have to start. Take a class, have a conversation, write a paragraph, make a plan. Momentum defeats the too late mindset. Remember, you don't have to be young to be great, but you do have to start to be great. And the best time to start is now. Delete "it's too late." Replace it with "I'm ready now" or "this is my time." Your best chapter might still be ahead of you. Chapter 6, I need to wait for the perfect moment. Let's examine another thought that masquerades as wisdom but actually sabotages success. I need to wait for the perfect moment. This thought convinces you that there's an ideal time coming when all the conditions will align perfectly for your success. Spoiler alert, that moment doesn't exist. The perfect moment thought is procrastination wearing a business suit. It sounds rational and strategic, but it's actually fear and perfectionism conspiring to keep you stuck in planning mode instead of action mode. Here's what people typically mean when they say they're waiting for the perfect moment: they're waiting for more money, more time, more knowledge, more confidence, fewer obstacles, better weather, supportive family members, a strong economy, or 100 other conditions that they believe need to be in place before they can start. The fundamental flaw in this thinking is that it assumes you can control or predict external conditions. You can't. Life is inherently uncertain, markets fluctuate, circumstances change, and there will always be challenges and obstacles regardless of when you start. But here's what's even more problematic: waiting for the perfect moment often means missing the good moments that are available right now. While you're waiting for ideal conditions, opportunities are passing by, skills are not being developed, relationships are not being built, and progress is not being made. I once knew an entrepreneur named Marcus who had a brilliant idea for a software application. He spent 2 years waiting for the perfect moment to launch. He was waiting for more funding, a larger team, better market conditions, and complete feature development. Meanwhile, 3 competitors launched similar products. By the time Marcus finally felt ready to launch, the market was saturated and his competitive advantage was gone. The perfect moment he was waiting for had actually been 18 months earlier when he first had the idea. The perfect moment thought ignores one of the most important principles of success: you don't have to be ready to start, but you have to start to be ready. Action creates clarity. Doing creates learning. Starting creates momentum. When you're in motion, you can see opportunities and make adjustments that aren't visible from the planning phase. You learn what works and what doesn't. You develop skills and confidence. You build relationships and reputation. None of this happens while you're waiting for the perfect moment. Consider the difference between perfectionism and excellence. Excellence is about doing your best with current resources and knowledge. Perfectionism is about waiting until you can guarantee a perfect outcome. Excellence moves you forward. Perfectionism keeps you stuck. The perfect moment thought also assumes that you need to have everything figured out before you start. But success doesn't require perfect planning, it requires adaptive execution. The most successful people are not those who plan perfectly, but those who start quickly and adjust continuously. Think about it this way: would you rather spend a year planning the perfect vacation and never take it, or take an imperfect vacation now and have the experience, memories, and joy that come with it? Most people would choose the imperfect vacation, yet they apply perfect moment thinking to their careers, relationships, and dreams. The reality is that there are only two types of moments: now and too late. The present moment is the only moment you can actually control and act upon. Everything else is either memory or speculation. So how do you delete this thought? First, accept that there will never be a perfect moment. There will always be challenges, uncertainties, and unknowns. Success is not about avoiding these conditions, it's about moving forward despite them. Second, lower your threshold for action. Instead of waiting until you're 100% ready, start when you're 70% ready. You'll figure out the remaining 30% through experience and action. Third, embrace the concept of minimum viable anything. You don't need the perfect product, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions. You need the minimum viable version that allows you to start learning and improving. Fourth, set artificial deadlines for yourself. Without external pressure, it's easy to keep pushing back your start date indefinitely. Give yourself a date and commit to starting, regardless of how ready you feel. Fifth, remember that timing is often less important than persistence. A mediocre idea executed persistently will often outperform a brilliant idea that's never implemented. The perfect moment is a myth. The perfect moment to start was yesterday. The second perfect moment is now. Delete "I need to wait for the perfect moment." Replace it with "this moment is good enough to start," or "I'll figure it out as I go." Winners don't wait for perfect conditions, they create progress in imperfect conditions. Chapter 7, What Will People Think? Now we come to perhaps the most socially destructive thought pattern: what will people think? This thought has prevented more dreams from being pursued, more risks from being taken, and more authentic lives from being lived than almost any other mental pattern. The "what will people think" thought makes you a prisoner of other people's opinions, or more accurately, what you imagine other people's opinions might be. It forces you to live your life according to other people's expectations instead of your own values and desires. This thought is particularly insidious because it often masquerades as social awareness or consideration for others. You tell yourself you're being respectful or thoughtful, but what you're actually doing is allowing fear of judgment to control your choices. Let's start with a fundamental truth: most people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Everyone is primarily focused on their own lives, challenges, and concerns. The attention you think they're paying to your choices and actions is largely imaginary. But even if they are thinking about you, so what? Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Their opinions are based on their own experiences, biases, limitations, and perspectives. They don't have access to your full story, your circumstances, your dreams, or your values. More importantly, the people whose opinions you're worried about are often not the people whose respect you actually want or need. The people who truly matter, the ones who love and support you, will generally support your growth and happiness, even if they don't understand all your choices. The "what will people think" thought creates what I call consensus living. You make choices based on what you think will be acceptable to the most people, rather than what will be fulfilling or meaningful to you. The result is a life that pleases everyone and satisfies no one, including yourself. Consider this: every innovation, every work of art, every social advancement, every breakthrough has initially been met with skepticism, criticism, or outright rejection by some people. If the creators had prioritized what will people think, over what do I believe is right or important, we would have no progress, no creativity, no positive change. The Wright brothers were told that humans would never fly. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. If any of these people had prioritized others' opinions over their own vision, the world would have been deprived of their contributions. The what will people think thought also assumes that there's a universal standard of what's right or acceptable. But standards vary dramatically between cultures, generations, communities, and individuals. What's considered bold and admirable in one context might be seen as reckless or inappropriate in another. This means that no matter what you do, someone will approve and someone else will disapprove. Since you can't please everyone, the most logical choice is to please yourself, assuming you're not harming others. Here's another perspective: the people who judge you most harshly for taking risks, pursuing dreams, or living authentically are often people who have given up on their own dreams. Your courage reminds them of their own compromises, and they react with criticism to protect their ego. Don't let other people's limitations become your limitations. Don't let their fears become your fears. Don't let their small thinking dictate your big dreams. The what will people think thought also ignores the respect and admiration that often comes from living authentically and courageously. While some people might criticize you for taking risks or being different, others will be inspired by your example. Your courage gives others permission to be courageous. So how do you delete this thought? First, recognize that seeking approval from everyone is impossible and exhausting. You will drive yourself crazy trying to manage everyone else's opinions and expectations. Second, identify whose opinions actually matter to you. Make a short list of people whose respect and input you genuinely value, probably no more than 5 to 10 people. These should be people who know you well, want the best for you, and whose judgment you trust. Focus on their feedback and ignore the rest. Third, remember that criticism often comes from people who are not even in the arena. As Theodore Roosevelt said, it is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. Fourth, consider the cost of letting others' opinions control your choices. What dreams have you abandoned? What opportunities have you missed? What version of yourself have you not become because you were worried about judgment? Fifth, practice making small decisions based on your own preferences rather than others' expectations. Start with low-stakes choices and build your confidence in trusting your own judgment. Finally, remember that regret from not trying is far more painful than temporary embarrassment from trying and failing. Delete what will people think. Replace it with what do I think, or what matters to me, or what would I do if I weren't afraid of judgment. Your life is not a democracy. Other people don't get to vote on your dreams, your choices, or your happiness. The only opinion that ultimately matters is your own. Chapter 8, I'm too busy. Let's address the close cousin of I don't have time, the thought I'm too busy. While these thoughts seem similar, I'm too busy has its own unique problems and deserves separate attention. I'm too busy has become a badge of honor in our culture. People wear their busyness like a medal, as if being busy is equivalent to being important, successful, or valuable. But busyness and productivity are not the same thing. In fact, excessive busyness often indicates the opposite of success. It indicates poor prioritization, inefficient systems, and lack of focus. The "I'm too busy" thought creates several problems. First, it makes you feel important and needed, which can become addictive. You start saying yes to everything because being busy feels like being valuable. Second, it prevents you from focusing on high-impact activities because you're constantly reacting to urgent but unimportant demands. Third, it gives you an excuse to avoid challenging but important tasks. It's easier to stay busy with familiar, comfortable activities than to tackle the difficult work that could actually move your life or career forward. Let me share the story of Jennifer, a marketing manager who constantly complained about being too busy. She worked long hours, answered emails constantly, attended numerous meetings, and always seemed to be rushing from one task to another. But when we analyzed how Jennifer spent her time, we discovered something interesting. She was spending 40% of her time on tasks that could have been delegated or eliminated entirely. She was attending meetings where she added no value and her presence wasn't necessary. She was answering emails that didn't require immediate responses. She was saying yes to projects that didn't align with her key responsibilities. Jennifer wasn't too busy, she was busy with the wrong things. Once she learned to say no to low-value activities and focus on high-impact work, she actually became more productive while working fewer hours. The "I'm too busy" thought often masks fear of missing out or fear of disappointing others. You say yes to everything because you're afraid that saying no will result in lost opportunities or damaged relationships. But the opposite is usually true. When you're spread too thin, you can't do anything well. Which ultimately disappoints everyone, including yourself. Here's a crucial distinction: successful people are not less busy than unsuccessful people, they're busy with different things. They're busy with activities that align with their goals and values. They're busy with work that leverages their strengths and creates significant impact. The key is not to be less busy, but to be busy with the right things. This requires what I call selective busyness, being very busy with high-value activities and completely unavailable for low-value activities. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." This isn't because they're lazy or unambitious. It's because they understand that every yes to one thing is a no to something else. Your time and energy are finite resources. When you say yes to everything, you're implicitly saying no to the things that matter most. When you're too busy to work on your most important goals, you're not actually busy, you're just poorly prioritized. The "I'm too busy" thought also prevents you from building systems and processes that could make you more efficient. When you're constantly reacting to urgent demands, you never have time to step back and ask, "How could I do this better?" or "What if I automated this?" or "Could someone else handle this?" Busy people work in their business or their life. Successful people work on their business or their life. They invest time in creating systems, developing skills, and building relationships that will pay dividends in the future. So how do you delete the "I'm too busy" thought? First, audit your activities. For 1 week, track what you do and how long it takes. Then categorize each activity as high, medium, or low value. You'll probably discover that you're spending significant time on low-value activities. Second, learn to say no. This is a skill that must be developed. Start with small no's and work your way up to bigger ones. Remember, every no to a low-value activity is a yes to a high-value activity. Third, delegate or eliminate everything that doesn't require your unique skills and knowledge. If someone else can do it 80% as well as you can, let them do it. Your time is too valuable to spend on tasks others can handle. Fourth, Batch similar activities together. Instead of checking email constantly throughout the day, check it 3 times. Instead of taking meetings randomly throughout the week, designate specific days or times for meetings. Fifth, invest time in prevention rather than just reaction. Spend time planning, organizing, and systematizing so that you can avoid crises and inefficiencies later. Remember, being busy is not an achievement, it's often a symptom of poor boundaries and unclear priorities. The goal is not to be busy, but to be effective. Delete "I'm too busy." Replace it with "I'm focused on what matters most" or "I choose my commitments carefully." Chapter 9, I need more money to start. Let's tackle one of the most common excuses that prevents people from pursuing their dreams: I need more money to start. This thought has kept countless potential entrepreneurs, artists, inventors, and change-makers stuck in the planning phase, waiting for financial resources that may never come. The "I need more money" thought is particularly seductive because it seems logical. After all, many endeavors do require some financial investment. But this thought becomes problematic when it's used as a blanket excuse to avoid starting anything. Here's the truth: most successful ventures started with far less money than their founders thought they needed. The constraint of limited resources often forces creativity, efficiency, and focus that wouldn't exist with unlimited funding. Consider some examples. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple in a garage with $1,300. Michael Dell started Dell Computer from his dorm room with $1,000. Phil Knight started Nike with $1,200. These weren't trust fund kids with unlimited resources, they were people who started with what they had and built from there. The "I need more money" thought often masks other fears. Sometimes it's really "I'm afraid to fail," or "I don't know where to start," or "I'm not confident in my idea." Money becomes a convenient excuse because it's external and seems beyond your control. But here's what's interesting: when people finally get the money they thought they needed, they often discover they need even more money. The goalposts keep moving because the real barrier was never money, it was fear, lack of knowledge, or unwillingness to start small. This doesn't mean money is irrelevant. Some businesses do require significant capital. But it does mean that lack of money is rarely the primary barrier to getting started. It's usually a secondary or tertiary consideration that gets promoted to primary importance as an excuse. Let me share the story of Maria, who wanted to start a catering business. For 2 years, she told everyone she just needed $50,000 to rent a commercial kitchen, buy equipment, and cover initial expenses. She spent those 2 years trying to secure a loan and getting increasingly frustrated. Finally, a friend suggested she start smaller. Maria began by catering small events from her home kitchen, using equipment she already owned or borrowed. Within 6 months, she had established a reputation, built a client base, and generated enough revenue to rent the commercial kitchen she originally thought she needed. The irony is that by the time Maria could afford the commercial kitchen, she realized she didn't need it immediately. She had learned to be efficient with limited resources, and she had proven market demand for her services. The constraint of limited money had actually made her a better entrepreneur. This illustrates an important principle: you don't need all the money to start, you need enough money to start. Then you use the revenue from starting to fund the next phase of growth. The "I need more money" thought also ignores the numerous low-cost or no-cost ways to begin almost any endeavor in today's economy. The internet has dramatically reduced the barriers to entry for most types of businesses and creative projects. You can start an online business with a website that costs less than $100 per year. You can test product ideas without manufacturing inventory. You can reach customers around the world without expensive advertising. You can learn almost any skill through free or low-cost online resources. The key is to think in terms of minimum viable anything. What's the smallest, least expensive version of your idea that you could start with? What could you do with the resources you have right now? Sometimes the constraint of limited money forces you to be more creative and ultimately more successful. When you have unlimited resources, it's easy to be wasteful. When resources are scarce, you have to be smart, efficient, and focused on what really matters. The "I need more money" thought also assumes that you need to have all the money up front. But most successful ventures are funded progressively. You start with what you have, generate some revenue or prove some concept, then use that progress to attract additional resources. Investors and lenders are much more likely to support a venture that's already showing some progress than one that exists only on paper. The best way to get money is often to prove you can succeed without it. So how do you delete this thought? First, separate wants from needs. You might want a fully equipped office, state-of-the-art equipment, and a large marketing budget, but what do you actually need to start? Second, look for ways to start that require time and creativity rather than money. Can you offer services before you sell products? Can you pre-sell before you manufacture? Can you partner with someone who has resources you lack? Third, consider the cost of not starting. While you're waiting to accumulate money, opportunities are being missed, skills are not being developed, and competitors might be gaining market share. Fourth, explore alternative funding sources. This might include partnerships, bartering, crowdfunding, grants, or gradual investment of profits from other activities. Fifth, remember that resourcefulness is more valuable than resources. The ability to create something from nothing, to find creative solutions to constraints, and to maximize limited resources are entrepreneurial superpowers that serve you throughout your career. Many of the most successful people in business are not those who started with the most money, but those who started with the most determination to succeed despite limited resources. Delete "I need more money to start." Replace it with "How can I start with what I have," or "What's the least expensive way to test this idea?" Winners don't wait for money, they start where they are and use resourcefulness to build resources. Chapter 10, I'm Not Lucky Enough. Let's examine one of the most disempowering thoughts that keeps people stuck in mediocrity: I'm not lucky enough. This thought attributes other people's success to chance and your lack of success to bad fortune, removing all sense of personal agency and control. The "I'm not lucky enough" thought is particularly dangerous because it makes you a victim of circumstances beyond your control. It suggests that success is primarily determined by random chance rather than effort, skill, persistence, and smart decisions. But here's the truth about luck: luck is not random. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Most of what we call luck is actually the result of positioning yourself to recognize and capitalize on opportunities that others miss. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Two photographers, John and Mike, both wanted to photograph wildlife in Africa. John spent 2 years saving money, studying animal behavior, researching locations, and practicing his photography skills. Mike waited for a lucky break, maybe winning a contest or having someone offer to pay for his trip. When John finally made his trip to Africa, he happened to be in the right place at the right time to photograph a rare interaction between lions and elephants. His photos were featured in National Geographic, launching his career as a wildlife photographer. Mike looked at John's success and said, "He's so lucky. I wish something like that would happen to me." But John's luck wasn't random. It was the predictable result of preparation, persistence, and positioning. He created the conditions that made his success possible. The "I'm not lucky enough" thought often stems from only seeing the final result of someone's success without understanding the preparation that made it possible. You see the entrepreneur who got lucky with a breakthrough product, but you don't see the years of failed attempts, market research, and skill development that preceded that success. This thought also ignores the role of effort in creating what appears to be luck. The harder you work, the luckier you get. The more you learn, the more opportunities you recognize. The more you network, the more chance encounters lead to opportunities. Consider this: why do some people seem to be consistently lucky while others are consistently unlucky? It's not because the universe has favorites. It's because lucky people have developed habits and mindsets that create more opportunities for positive outcomes. Lucky people tend to be more optimistic, which makes them more likely to take risks and pursue opportunities. They're more observant, which helps them notice opportunities that others miss. They're more social, which expands their network and increases their chances of beneficial connections. Lucky people also tend to be more persistent. When they encounter setbacks, they keep trying different approaches until something works. What looks like overnight success is often the result of years of persistent effort. The "I'm not lucky enough" thought also ignores the fact that you can manufacture your own luck. You can increase your odds of success by improving your skills, expanding your network, staying informed about opportunities in your field, and positioning yourself where good things are likely to happen. If you want to be a successful writer, you don't just wait for luck, you move to a city with a thriving literary scene, attend writing conferences, join writing groups, and submit your work to publications. You create conditions where lucky breaks are more likely to occur. The thought also assumes that success requires extraordinary luck, but most success is built on ordinary luck, the kind of everyday opportunities that are available to everyone but only seized by those who are prepared and alert. You get lucky when you apply for a job you're qualified for. You get lucky when you start a conversation with someone who becomes a valuable connection. You get lucky when you invest time in learning a skill that becomes valuable. None of this is random chance, it's the predictable result of smart choices. Here's another perspective: even when genuinely random events affect your life, your response to those events determines their ultimate impact. Two people can experience the same unlucky event, losing a job, for example, and have completely different outcomes based on how they respond. One person might see job loss as proof that they're unlucky and become discouraged. Another might see it as an opportunity to find something better or start their own business. The event was the same, but the interpretation and response were different. So how do you delete the "I'm not lucky enough" thought? First, take responsibility for creating your own opportunities. Instead of waiting for luck to find you, go out and find luck. Second, develop what I call opportunity awareness. Train yourself to notice possibilities that others might misread widely, talk to people outside your usual circle, and stay curious about trends and changes in your field. Third, build your preparation. The more skilled, knowledgeable, and connected you become, the more lucky breaks you'll experience. Luck favors the prepared mind. Fourth, reframe setbacks as setups. Instead of seeing obstacles as proof of bad luck, see them as preparation for something better. Many successful people will tell you that their biggest failures led to their greatest successes. Fifth, surround yourself with positive, proactive people. Luck is often social. The people in your network significantly influence the opportunities you encounter. Remember, complaining about bad luck is like complaining about gravity, it's a waste of energy that could be better spent on creating positive outcomes. Delete "I'm not lucky enough." Replace it with how can I create more opportunities, or how can I prepare for success. Winners don't wait for luck, they create it. Chapter 11, I don't know enough. Now let's address a thought that keeps millions of capable people trapped in perpetual learning mode: I don't know enough. This thought convinces you that you need to accumulate more knowledge, more credentials, or more expertise before you can take action or pursue opportunities. The I don't know enough thought seems prudent and humble, but it's actually a sophisticated form of procrastination. It keeps you consuming information instead of applying it, studying instead of doing, preparing instead of performing. Here's a fundamental truth: you will never know enough. Knowledge is infinite, but life is finite. If you wait until you know everything relevant to your goals, you'll never start. The gap between what you know and what you could know will always exist. But here's what's even more important: you don't need to know everything to start. You just need to know enough to take the next step. Then you learn as you go, adapting and improving based on real-world feedback rather than theoretical knowledge. The most successful people are not those who know the most before they start, they're those who learn the fastest while they're doing. They understand that knowledge without application is just trivia, and that real learning happens through experience, not just study. Consider the entrepreneur who spends 3 years researching every aspect of their industry before launching their business. By the time they feel ready, the market has changed, competitors have emerged, and opportunities have passed. Meanwhile, someone else started with less knowledge but learned and adapted quickly, gaining market share and real-world experience. The I don't know enough thought also ignores the fact that much of what you think you need to know can only be learned through doing. You can read every book about swimming, but you won't really know how to swim until you get in the water. You can study business theory extensively, but you won't understand business until you start one. This is particularly true in today's rapidly changing world. The half-life of specific knowledge is getting shorter. What you learn today might be outdated in 2 years. The ability to learn and adapt quickly is more valuable than having extensive knowledge in any particular area. Let me share the story of Sarah, a talented graphic designer who wanted to start freelancing but kept telling herself she needed to learn more software programs, study more design trends, and take more courses before she could compete with established freelancers. She spent 18 months in learning mode, consuming tutorials, attending workshops, and building an extensive portfolio of practice projects. Meanwhile, her friend Lisa, who had less technical knowledge but more confidence, started freelancing immediately. She figured out what she needed to know as she worked with real clients. By the time Sarah felt ready to start freelancing, Lisa had been working for a year and a half, had built a solid client base, had learned what skills were actually in demand, and was earning more money than Sarah could have imagined when she started her extended preparation phase. The irony is that Lisa learned faster because she was learning from real client feedback and market demands, not just theoretical knowledge. Her learning was targeted and practical rather than comprehensive and theoretical. The I don't know enough thought also creates perfectionist paralysis. You set an impossibly high standard for how much you need to know before you can act, then use your failure to meet that standard as an excuse not to start. But competence is not about knowing everything, it's about knowing enough to be useful and having the confidence to learn what you don't know as you need it. Most clients and customers don't need you to be the world's foremost expert. They need you to solve their problem or meet their need. Here's another perspective: your current knowledge, combined with your willingness to learn and grow, is probably enough to help someone. There are people who know less than you do who would benefit from your current level of expertise. Instead of focusing on everything you don't know, focus on what you do know that could be valuable to others. Then use the income or satisfaction from applying that knowledge to fund and motivate further learning. The "I don't know enough" thought also ignores the power of specialization. You don't need to know everything about everything. You need to know enough about your area of focus to create value, and you need to know how to find or partner with people who have complementary knowledge. In today's complex world, success comes from collaboration and specialization, not from individual omniscience. The most successful projects and businesses are usually the result of teams of people with different areas of expertise working together. So how do you delete this thought? First, identify the minimum knowledge required to take your next step. Don't try to learn everything, just learn enough to move forward. Second, embrace the concept of learning by doing. Start before you feel ready, and use the feedback from your actions to guide your continued learning. This is more efficient and more motivating than abstract study. Third, develop confidence in your ability to learn quickly when you need to. The skill of rapid learning is more valuable than any specific piece of knowledge. Fourth, find mentors, advisors, or partners who have knowledge you lack. You don't have to know everything yourself if you have access to people who know what you don't. Fifth, remember that expertise is built through practice, not just study. The fastest way to become an expert is to start practicing, even imperfectly. You already know more than you think you do, and you can learn more than you think you can. The question is not whether you know enough, it's whether you're willing to start with what you know and learn the rest as you go. Delete "I don't know enough." Replace it with "I know enough to start" or "I'll learn what I need as I go." Winners don't wait for complete knowledge, they start with sufficient knowledge and build expertise through experience. Chapter 12, It's Already Been Done. Let's tackle a thought that kills innovation and entrepreneurial spirit: it's already been done. This thought convinces you that if someone else has already created something similar to your idea, there's no point in pursuing it. The "it's already been done" thought is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how markets, innovation, and success work. It assumes that there's room for only one solution to any problem, or that the first mover automatically wins and excludes all others. But reality tells a different story. Almost every successful product, service, or idea has multiple competitors and variations. The market is rarely satisfied with just one option, and different approaches can coexist and even thrive together. Consider some examples. There wasn't just one social media platform. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and dozens of others, each serving slightly different needs or audiences. There isn't just one streaming service. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and many others compete successfully in the same space. There isn't just one coffee shop, one restaurant, one clothing brand, or one solution to virtually any consumer need. The "it's already been done" thought would suggest that after Starbucks became successful, no one else should have opened a coffee shop. But thousands of successful coffee businesses have thrived by offering different experiences, different products, or serving different markets. The truth is that "it's already been done" often means there's proven market demand. If someone else has succeeded with a similar idea, that's actually validation that there's a market for what you want to create. It reduces your risk rather than eliminating your opportunity. The "it's already been done" thought also ignores the fact that you bring unique value to any idea you pursue. Your background, perspective, experiences, and approach are different from anyone else's. Even if you're creating something similar to what exists, you're not creating the same thing because you're not the same person. Consider the story of Drew Houston, who founded Dropbox. When he started working on the idea, there were already several file storage and sync services available. Critics said, "It's already been done." But Houston saw that existing solutions were either too complicated for average users or didn't work seamlessly across different devices. Dropbox succeeded not because it was the first file storage service, but because it was simpler, more reliable, and more user-friendly than existing options. Houston took an idea that had already been done and executed it better. This illustrates an important principle: success often comes not from creating something entirely new, but from improving something that already exists. Most breakthrough innovations are actually improvements or combinations of existing ideas rather than completely original inventions. The "it's already been done" thought also assumes that markets are static, but they're constantly evolving. Consumer preferences change, technology advances, new problems emerge, and new opportunities are created. What worked 5 years ago might not work today, and what works today might not work 5 years from now. This means there's always room for new approaches, new solutions, and new competitors. The smartphone market seemed saturated when Apple introduced the iPhone, but they redefined what a smartphone could be. The electric car market seemed like a niche when Tesla started, but they proved there was significant demand for better electric vehicles. Sometimes it's already been done badly, and there's an opportunity to do it much better. Sometimes it's been done for one market segment, and there's an opportunity to serve a different segment. Sometimes it's been done with old technology, and there's an opportunity to use new technology to create a superior solution. The thought also ignores the power of timing. An idea that failed 5 years ago might succeed today because market conditions, technology, or consumer preferences have changed. Many successful companies are built on ideas that had been tried before but hadn't found the right moment or approach. Here's another perspective: competition often makes markets bigger rather than smaller. When multiple companies are promoting similar solutions, they collectively educate the market and increase overall demand. The presence of competitors can actually help your business by raising awareness of the category you're in. So how do you delete this thought? First, reframe competition as validation. If others are succeeding with similar ideas, it proves there's market demand for what you want to create. Second, focus on differentiation rather than originality. You don't need a completely original idea, you need an idea that you can execute better, differently, or for a different audience than existing solutions. Third, study your competitors to understand what they're doing well and where they're falling short. Use this analysis to identify opportunities for improvement or differentiation. Fourth, remember that markets are big enough for multiple winners. The goal is not to be the only solution, but to be a preferred solution for your target customers. Fifth, consider the advantages of being a fast follower rather than a first mover. You can learn from the mistakes of earlier entrants and improve upon their approach. The fact that something has been done before doesn't mean it can't be done better, differently, or for a different market. Some of the most successful companies in history have taken existing ideas and executed them more effectively than their predecessors. Delete "it's already been done." Replace it with "how can I do this better," or "what's my unique approach to this proven market need." Winners don't avoid competitive markets, they find ways to win in competitive markets. Conclusion: your new mental operating system. We've identified and examined 12 of the most destructive thoughts that sabotage success. These mental viruses: I'm not good enough, what if I fail? I don't have time, it's too late, I need to wait for the perfect moment, what will people think? I'm too busy. I need more money to start, I'm not lucky enough, I don't know enough, and "it's already been done," have been quietly running in the background of your mental operating system, consuming resources and preventing you from accessing your full potential. But awareness is the first step to transformation. Now that you can recognize these thoughts when they appear, you have the power to challenge them, delete them, and replace them with more empowering alternatives. Remember, changing your thought patterns is not a one-time event, it's an ongoing practice. These limiting thoughts have been reinforced over years or even decades. They won't disappear overnight. But with consistent awareness and intentional replacement, you can reprogram your mental operating system to support your success rather than sabotage it. Here's your new mental framework. When you notice a limiting thought, pause and ask yourself 3 questions. Is this thought helpful? Is this thought accurate? And what would I do if I didn't believe this thought? Most limiting thoughts fail all 3 tests. They're not helpful because they prevent action and growth. They're not accurate because they're based on fear, assumption, or outdated information. And when you imagine what you would do without these thoughts, you usually discover possibilities and opportunities that were previously invisible. The goal is not to eliminate all negative thoughts. Some skepticism and caution are healthy and appropriate. The goal is to eliminate thoughts that keep you stuck, scared, and small without providing any real benefit or protection. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm learning and growing every day." Replace "what if I fail" with "what will I learn." Replace "I don't have time" with "how can I make time for what matters most." Replace "it's too late" with "this is my time." Replace "I need to wait for the perfect moment" with "this moment is good enough to start." Replace "what will people think" with "what do I think." Replace "I'm too busy" with "I'm focused on what matters most." Replace "I need more money to start" with "how can I start with what I have." Replace "I'm not lucky enough" with "how can I create more opportunities." Replace "I don't know enough" with "I know enough to start." Replace "it's already been done" with "how can I do this better." These new thoughts will create new neural pathways, new behaviors, and ultimately, new results in your life. But thoughts alone are not enough. Thoughts must be followed by action. The most empowering thought in the world is worthless if it doesn't lead to empowering behavior. As you delete limiting thoughts and install empowering ones, you must also commit to acting on these new thoughts. Start small. Choose one area of your life where limiting thoughts have been holding you back. Identify the specific thoughts you need to delete. Practice recognizing them when they appear. Challenge them with evidence and logic. Replace them with more accurate and helpful thoughts. Then take one small action based on your new thinking. Success is not about having perfect thoughts, it's about having thoughts that serve your goals and values rather than undermining them. It's about thinking like a winner instead of thinking like a victim. Your thoughts are not facts. They're not permanent. They're not beyond your control. They're tools, and like any tools, they can be upgraded, replaced, or discarded when they're no longer useful. You have the power to choose your thoughts. You have the power to change your thoughts. You have the power to create a mental environment that supports your success instead of sabotaging it. The thoughts you choose to keep and the thoughts you choose to delete will determine the life you create. Choose wisely. Think like a winner. Delete the thoughts that hold you back, and watch as new possibilities emerge in every area of your life. Your journey to winning starts in your mind. It starts with the thoughts you choose to think. It starts now. Thank you for joining me on this journey to delete the thoughts that prevent winning and install the thoughts that create success. Remember, you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of your thoughts. And that makes all the difference. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The time is now. Delete these thoughts if you want to win. Your future self will thank you.